Welcome to our channel, Captain Summary. Today I'm going to explain a 2015 Canadian-American supernatural psychological horror film called The Blackcoat's Daughter. A deeply atmospheric and terrifying new horror film, The Blackcoat's Daughter, centers on Kat and Rose, two girls who were left alone at their prep school, Bramford, over winter break when their parents mysteriously failed to pick them up. While the girls experience increasingly strange and creepy occurrences at the isolated school, we cross-cut to another story, that of Joan, a troubled young woman on the road who, for unknown reasons, is determined to get to Bramford as fast as she can. As Joan gets closer to the school, Kat becomes plagued by progressively intense and horrifying visions, with Rose doing her best to help her new friend as she slips further and further into the grasp of an unseen evil force. The movie suspensefully brings to the moment when the two stories will finally intersect, setting the stage for a shocking and unforgettable climax. The film is split into three timelines. The first two, Rose and Joan, intercut between each other throughout the bulk of the film, before a third timeline, Kat, is introduced and comprises the film's climax. So let's start the story, but before we do, don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe to our channel to get some interesting stuff and upcoming videos. The film follows Catherine and Rose as they're left behind at their Catholic boarding school over winter break. In February, at the prestigious Catholic boarding school in upstate New York, students are preparing to be picked up by their parents for break. Kat, a freshman, has a dream where her father shows her the horribly smashed family car. She awakens from the dream and marks off her calendar, looking forward to the day her parents will come. An older student, Rose, worries she might be pregnant and intends to tell her boyfriend that night. Rose also lied to her parents about the break so she could avoid telling them about her hidden pregnancy. When both Kat and Rose's parents fail to pick them up before break, Rose confesses she told them the wrong date, but doesn't disclose it's because she wants to delay them until she can tell her boyfriend about the pregnancy. Mr. Gordon, the headmaster, jokes that their parents will eventually show up since they can't live there forever. Kat is visibly upset, and the two nuns who were acting as chaperones reassure her that everything's fine and promise to keep calling her parents. They ask Rose to watch over Kat that night. That night, Rose tells Kat that she's going out. When Kat protests, Rose tries to unnerve her by telling her a story about the nuns at the school being devil worshippers. She leaves Kat alone and gets in the car with her boyfriend. Kat hears a payphone ringing in the hall and picks up. Meanwhile, a girl named Joan gets off a bus in upstate New York and cleans herself up in the bus station bathroom. Joan is the only one of the three characters who does not attend the boarding school. We don't know much about her background or who she is, except some flashbacks that show she was at some type of mental hospital. She has a flashback of a psych ward and tears a hospital bracelet off her wrist. Overall, Joan seems troubled. She's dirty and is only wearing a light coat in the freezing cold. We see her ripping off her hospital bracelet. Bruises cover her body, and overall, she looks roughed up. She attempts to make a call on the payphone, but the number she calls has been disconnected. As she waits outside for the next bus, she's noticed by a man named Bill who offers her a ride, much to the chagrin of his wife, Linda. Joan notices a bouquet of flowers in the back seat. Meanwhile, once Rose is dropped back to the school by her boyfriend, Rose goes to the bathroom and hears strange noises coming from the boiler room and goes to investigate. When she looks through the window in the door, she sees Kat prostrated in front of the lit boiler. Bill and his wife are very kind to Joan, letting her sleep in her own hotel room and treating her to dinner. Joan awakens in the hotel room. She takes a shower and a bullet scar can be seen on her shoulder. In a flashback, a police officer shoots a rifle. Bill knocks and tells Joan the reason he picked her up is because she reminds him of someone. He invites her to have dinner with them at the restaurant next door, where he shows Joan a picture of Rose, who's revealed to be his daughter. He explains she died 9 years ago. Joan excuses herself and goes to the bathroom where she giggles and has a memory of killing a woman and stealing her identification card. Joan sees Bill talking to a cop and steals a knife from the bus tray. Bill tells her they have to hit the road to beat an impending storm and Joan goes to the car where Linda is waiting. Linda tells Joan that Bill sees Rose in every young girl, but that she doesn't see Rose in Joan at all. Rose tucks Kat in and tries to reassure her that her parents are on their way. Kat tells Rose she knows her parents are dead, which disturbs Rose. Rose goes back to her room and bars her door with a chair. Rose awakens and goes to breakfast with the two chaperones and Kat. Kat begins to act strangely and is unable to pray. When one of the chaperones begins to scold her, Kat stands up and vomits. As they try to nurse her, she lashes out at them. Mr. Gordon rings to tell them that he'll be coming back to the school. It's implied that Kat's parents have indeed died in a car crash. The woman asks Rose to shovel the driveway for him. After shoveling, Rose tries to re-enter the chaperone's house, but the doors are locked, so she returns to her dorm room. When Mr. Gordon arrives at the house, he's accompanied by a police officer. Upon entering the house, Mr. Gordon grasps his face in horror. In a flashback, Kat is seen answering the payphone and hears a gravelly voice on the other end, which she calls Dad. It tells her that her parents aren't coming and to kill everyone. Later, Kat is seen stabbing the two chaperones to death. While one of the victims crawls along the floor, mortally wounded, Kat casually walks upstairs and returns with 2 pillowcases. She then finishes the job. Rose goes to the bathroom and gets her period, sighing in relief. She hears someone enter the bathroom, but then leave. When she goes to the dorm stairwell, she sees 2 bloody heads wrapped in pillowcases and hurries back to the hall. Kat appears and stabs Rose to death before decapitating her. The police officer finds Kat in the boiler room, kneeling in front of the lit boiler and surrounded by the heads of her 3 victims. She stands and begins to yell, "Hail Satan!" When she fails to drop the knife, the cop shoots her in the shoulder. Joan is in the car with Bill and Linda. Linda reveals to Joan that Rose was brutally murdered 9 years earlier and decapitated. Joan says she's going to be sick, and Bill pulls over. Joan then slashes Bill's throat and stabs Linda to death. She cuts off their heads and puts them in a suitcase, which she carries to the boarding school, now all boarded up. Father Brian visits Kat, now revealed to be a younger Joan, in the psych ward and performs an exorcism. Kat sees a shadowed demonic figure. She asks it to stay with her, but it disappears. In the present day, Joan enters the boiler room with the suitcase, only to find the boiler dark and cold. The end of the movie shows Joan arriving at the school. She enters the cellar with the 2 severed heads. She attempts to summon the demon, but fails. The last scene is Joan crying hysterically. She exits the school. She begins to sob, realizing she is truly alone. Her bitter tears conclude the tragic film. The last scene of Joan crying after she fails to summon the demon. Why is this? There are a couple of theories. The most obvious theory is she wanted more than anything to be repossessed by the demon. After her parents died, she likely felt alone. Having the demon with her likely provided her with some sense of security. This is why she begged the demon not to go after the exorcism. In addition, she waited 9 years to find her demon. When he wouldn't appear, she felt devastated. Another interesting theory that somewhat pertains to the previous theory is she killed 2 people for no reason. If the demon wouldn't accept the heads as a sacrifice, their deaths were for nothing. Maybe she's crying because she felt regret, especially since Bill and his wife did a lot for her during their short time together. Are you still confused by some of the events that occurred in this film? Here's a more in-depth look at the Blackcoat's daughter. Joan and Catherine are the same person. After her successful exorcism, Catherine was admitted to a mental institution. She ended up escaping, taking on a new identity as Joan. She actually stole one of the nuns' ID cards, whose name was Joan. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash that like button and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all the latest and the most interesting videos.